Good morning, everybody. It is December 4th, 2023. It is 8:46 a.m., and we are back for another market open. Folks, we are having a really interesting day. I don't know if interesting is the right word, but it is one word to describe what's going on. Market's green, and the market's green based on certain sectors that if you have allocation to in the market, you are going to be green. And the reason for this is because good old Bitcoin has ballooned past $40,000 as of last night. Really, as of this morning, it made its appearance closer to 42,000. Bitcoin right now at $41,860, touching 42,173. We have seen momentum at the level of 7 to 8% over the past couple of days on Bitcoin, and that is affecting various stocks that are also in the Bitcoin crypto space, which is why we have a green market. And now, not everything is green in the pre-market. You've got Tesla that's red. You've got Palantir down about 1.63%. You got big tech that's looking red. But you've got other companies like Robinhood that are up 4% in the pre-market. MicroStrategy up 8%, 571. Coinbase up 10% at $140. The stock is now up 145. The stock is now up 300% year to date. I mean, who would have thought that the Santa Claus rally would end up being in the crypto space? You got Riot, that's up 11%. You've got CleanSpark, that's up 15%. You've got Mara, that's up 14%. All of this because they are derivative companies of Bitcoin. You got Bitfarms, the company that I sold my options on a couple days ago for 45% gains. That's up 20%. It's up 87% in the past week. So those options probably would have been up more than 46%. We'll see what they open at today, but they're probably going to be up 100%. And my 1,300 would have turned into 2,600. But Bitcoin's up. And as a result of that, you've got a lot of companies that are doing up as well. So we've got a lot to get into. We got a lot to talk about. We got to talk about why this is happening, how this is happening. We got a lot of AI news to discuss. We've got some merger and acquisitions to discuss. We got layoffs happening at Spotify. There is so much going on. I hope everyone had a good week. And obviously, Bitcoin consumed the majority of the news cycle yesterday, and that's going to be impacting a lot of what happens today. And we also have to talk about if this December kind of rally is going to happen, if it can continue to sustain itself, even though November was up 9% for the month. And if Bitcoin and Bitcoin's greenness is going to allow the rest of the stock market to pump. So we got lots to talk about. Anthony, I Show Sad, Invisible Voices, Marcus, Sethi Roth, Bay Ray, Jocelyn, West Coast, Missy Iger, Alex, Jason, Imnop, John Strip, Ahmad, Ephemeral, June, Danger, Kevin Smith, Jeremy. What's up, Jeremy? Oh, I got to show you guys a tweet I had about Jeremy. Jeremy and I were on FaceTime this weekend. It was super, super fun getting to know you. So thank you for being here, Jeremy. Lang, Felicia, Carter, Natalie, Jared, Paul, Juan Carlos, buenos dias, sir. Imnop says your hair grew longer over the weekend. No, my hair is just being weird. I got a haircut. You guys can probably notice, right? I got a haircut, but my hair is just being weird. So that's why. I actually got my hair cut, like the top of it cut 2 weeks ago. So there's no way it could be longer. But I did get a haircut. So my hair is just being stupid. Kelly, thank you for being here. Noticing the tie. She says, hey, my star is gold. We got a new tie on today. We're going to be testing out this tie thing every single day. Hello, everybody. Sachin, thank you for being here. Practical investing. All right. So I think let's get started with the big news of the day, the news that we've got to discuss, which is Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been on a tear. And Bitcoin being on a tear obviously is affecting a lot of stocks in the stock market, and it is implicating everything that we have going on right now in the pre-markets. Why is Bitcoin at basically $42,000? What is the logic for it? It seems like, quite frankly, there is just a ton of momentum going into it from retail, and that's what's piling in. I mean, I was looking at a bunch of charts yesterday, and a lot of those charts seem to suggest that we are getting to the point where there is only 30% left of supply to even buy Bitcoin. And that's because the people that have held Bitcoin for a long time are being very stubborn with their Bitcoin. They're not giving it up. And, when an asset essentially has a fixed amount of supply and there's not that much liquidity, the price of that asset, if there is sufficient demand around that asset, ends up going up, right? Kind of basic supply and demand. If there is more supply than there is, or if there's less supply than there is demand, then the asset tends to go higher. Now, as a result of that, we've seen Bitcoin really crack through some of these levels. Remember, on November 21st, it was at 35,000. We're on December 4th, so about 2 weeks from there, we were at 41,883. And a lot of this seems to be, quite frankly, from what I'm looking at it as well, um, um, uh, retail, right? I mean, there was a lot of charts out yesterday also saying that retail is starting to get excited. This is typically when FOMO tends to happen. I mean, when something jumps from 27,000 to 42,000 and you kind of feel like you don't have any exposure to it, retail tends to come in and retail tends to buy. And when retail tends to buy and it becomes a compounding cycle of retail tending to buy, then we have more and more demand side pressure or buy side pressure on demand, which allows the asset to go higher. Now, on top of that, obviously, there's two bigger catalysts. The one is the halving event for Bitcoin that's going to be happening around April 2024. That has been known for a while, but I guess it's being taken a lot more seriously. And spot ETF approvals. Lots of demand is going to happen on the spot ETF approvals. People's 401ks will have an opportunity to be allocated to it. I mean, it's going to be an event in the United States, at least, where lots and lots of people, hundreds of millions of people, at least adults, will have access to Bitcoin in some capacity. And as a result of that, that is piling in on the narrative for why Bitcoin deserves to go higher and Bitcoin being able to do well. Heinzie Ketchup in the chat says, we're holding a bit. Yep. The people that really love this company are also, I say company, that love this asset are deciding not to sell from as well. Philip Rizzo says, Tanner showed institutional volume is way higher on Coinbase than retail always has been. Yeah, I mean, I don't deny that institutions are buying Bitcoin. I just think there's also definitely, it's kind of undeniable that retail is starting to come in and starting to participate. This is just general FOMO that's definitely happening. And that participation, even if it's small, is, I think, leading to a little bit more excitement around the asset itself. But obviously, I do think the rise from 4,000 2 months ago to like 35,000, yeah, that was probably institutional. That was definitely not retail moving it that hard, because you just need some more, you need bigger money to move this asset class. If we go to Bitcoin's market cap, which is also really interesting to look at, market cap currently of $818 billion. So the total number of Bitcoin times the price per Bitcoin is giving us a market cap of $818 billion. And that is less than Tesla's market cap. That's less than Facebook's market cap. That's less than NVIDIA's market cap. So when you look at it, I mean, it's really interesting just to think about it. In the past 7 days, up 13%, past 24 hours, up 5.4%. Bitcoin's still worth less than some of these other companies that exist. And one could argue that maybe Bitcoin as a speculative instrument or even a store of value is more valuable than a Meta, a Tesla, or NVIDIA. And if enough people believe that's the case, then 817 billion theoretically is cheap for Bitcoin. And so it's one of those arguments where it can keep going higher and higher because the market believes that there is a source of value there. That can happen. TJ says, I've been in Riot and Mara since 2019. Bit hard at times, fun though. Yeah, a lot of these Bitcoin miners that are doing well right now. Let me actually pull it up so I can show you guys some of the market momentum here. A lot of these Bitcoin miners have been through, quite frankly, hell over the past couple of years. And now they're starting to do a lot better because the asset that they're all correlated to is doing well. Riot up 11%. You've got Mara here up 14%. You've got Coinbase here up 8.69%. Coinbase as well. We got to talk about that. $145. This is just, remember, Coinbase IPO'd at $250. So there are still bag holders of Coinbase because Coinbase ran to $400. I don't even know if Kathy's break even on it yet, but this is ARK's largest holding at 10.1% or whatever of the fund. So whether or not she's break even on it, she definitely loaded up a lot of Coinbase at one point. And so as a result of that, I didn't expect Coinbase to be the thing that saves ARK, but ARK is up more than 30% in the past month, almost touching $50 in the pre-market because Coinbase is up. If Coinbase was not up like 60% in the past 3 months, ARK would probably not have this alpha attached to it either. So, I mean, there's in an ETF, you're kind of just seeing which one's going to end up winning out, and hopefully it makes up for all the losers. And there's obviously going to be some losers in ARK. Personally, I think Zoom's not going to be as big as Kathy thinks, even if it doubles from here. I really don't think Zoom's going to be a winner. But Coinbase, as of now, is a winner. And she was buying in the 30s and 40s, and now she's able to see some gains on that. On top of that, MicroStrategy, 570 in the pre-market, up 8%. MicroStrategy purchased an additional 5,000 Bitcoin the other day. Now they have 176,000 Bitcoin at an average of just under 30 grand. And so, or just at 30 grand. They are up, right? Bitcoin at 42 a pop. They are up 12 grand on on all of those Bitcoin. And they, are doing well. They're in the pre-market 8% up, 570. I looked at MicroStrategy's chart the other day or last night, and MicroStrategy at one point was $1,000. I did not know that. Or 1,300. I did not know in the height of 2021 MicroStrategy, because they had so much Bitcoin, and obviously Bitcoin going to 60 grand. They got up to 1,350. And look at that. They were $90 in 2020. In 2021, they were 1,315. And so that was all because of their purchases of Bitcoin. The company itself is growing 3% year over year. It does $129 million of revenue, the actual services and the subscription revenue that MicroStrategy as a company builds. So, they're growing 3% year over year, not really a growth company, but Bitcoin growing at 242% year to date. And, they are starting to obviously get people more excited. And that's why we see MicroStrategy here at $571 right now. CleanSpark, another popular miner, up 15%, $8.78. Most people have that going to $10, are excited for that to go to $10. Bitfarms, the company that I sold a couple of days ago and took my 46% gain, up another 20% at 2 hours. And, honestly, the reason I sold it is because I was just like, it's up 46%. I should take some profits here, right? With crypto, it's just hard to time it, because when the momentum's there, the momentum's there. And if the momentum is really there, then it's going to keep going. And you got to kind of just let it play out before you decide to take your profits. But I'm happy I got my profits. That was nice. It would be cooler to see the profits go higher, given we're holding on to it. But honestly, I thought it was going to slow down a little bit, simply because, Bitcoin's run up a lot. It's run up a lot. So you kind of thought, all right, it's going to chill a little bit. And I think that's the question I want to ask everybody here. That's kind of the existential question that I want to discuss, which is, Kelly says in the chat, whenever I had a good shekel, I think of Kathy's Zoom price. Yeah, Kathy, for those that don't know, she wants it to be 1,500 by 2026. Stock's at $60. So if Kathy's right, that's going to be better than most companies in the market, and she's going to make out like a bandit. But here's the question about Bitcoin. Is this peak euphoria, or is this actually time to run? And it's a question that I think is incredibly interesting. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, are you living under a rock? Have you not heard of the crypto catalyst? There's so many crypto catalysts. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. There's crypto catalysts. However, when an asset runs this quickly, the question becomes, are the catalysts enough to maintain the asset running, or to give new life to the asset running? Or is there some level of profit taking, which is what is a necessity in order for the asset to come down, because things just get too high up? And I don't know the answer to that question. Gun to my head, I would say that this is not peak euphoria, and then the asset Bitcoin has more room to run, simply because retail is just getting excited about it, I would imagine. And I think retail, for everyone who's talking about Chicken Genius in the chat, I don't know if you guys saw his last tweet, but his last tweet was literally saying, get ready to dump on retail. let me show you guys the tweet. So it's this is someone also who doesn't give a shit about Bitcoin. He cares about the speculative nature. Chicken Genius doesn't give a shit about any asset. He wants to make money on it. So this is what he says last night. As predicted, Bitcoin hit 40K. This is the point when retail comes in. Watch the trends, including Google Trends, change to positive. We, the smart money, will dump on them. So, I don't think he's alone, right? I think there's a large community of Bitcoin holders that are going to hold this. I keep saying the stock. They're going to hold it, and they're not going to sell because they want to see this thing go to 100,000, a million a coin, right? There's going to be those types of people. But, Bitcoin's at 41,000 right now. Let's say Bitcoin somehow gets to 38,000. And then it gets to 36,000. There's going to be a lot of people that might have bought at 20,000 or 25,000. And if they're not the long-term hold hodlers, they're going to take some profits. They're going to be like, you know what? We're heading back down. This is going to be another couple of rough years. I'm just going to take my money and run. And obviously that's what happened in 2022, and it created a cascading effect. So if there is some level of smart money that's going to dump on people, then that's going to happen. Now, let me give the pushback against that. The pushback against that to me is very simple. Those spot ETFs that are going to get approved are going to bring in so much demand to Bitcoin. And as a result of that demand coming into Bitcoin, it's just going to be hard for me to see most logical people that have understood Bitcoin for a long time start to be like, you know what, even if there's a dip, I'm going to sell it on the eve of spot ETF approvals, right? Like not literally today, but they're eventually going to be approved. So I don't know. I don't think this thing is going to stop. I really don't. I think it's going to keep going and going. Josh Gomez says it all depends on BlackRock's ETF. If approved, we moon. If it is declined or prolonged, we crash. Yeah, and if it's declined, maybe there's some level of a crash. I don't know what the pullback would look like, but it is getting to the point where, dude, it's run up a lot. I mean, you've got companies that are up 80% in 2 weeks. And so when it gets this easy to, and that's the reason why I sold Bitfarms as well. I was like, this is too easy to make money. I was like, this is way too easy. And like, it really did scare me because I didn't take profits in the summer. And I was like, all right, if I missed out on taking profits in the summer, I got an opportunity to take some profits, even though it's $600, whatever. I only put in 1,300, but still, that's 50% on your money. I should take some damn profits, right? I shouldn't get too greedy. That was really the mindset. And this is the thing I think about becoming an investor that's so incredible to understand is like, it's a humbling business because you could be doing the right thing. Imagine if I was managing institutional money, right? And I don't know why I would have put it into Bitfarms, but I put it into Bitfarms and I'm up. And it's like you take some profits, but then the sucker runs up another 100% and you miss out on, like in that case, it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit. In my case, it's thousands of dollars of profit. You've got to be humbled enough to be like, look, your assessment on selling was wrong. And you can mentally be okay with like, I took some money off the table and that's fine. But it was wrong because the asset kept running and you didn't see that the asset kept running. And so I think this is the really hard part about learning how to be an investor in all areas, whether it's crypto, stocks, options, et cetera. It's like when you do leave the casino and when you exit, because this is all a casino at the end of the day that we're playing in. Are you satisfied with leaving the casino? And did you actually leave at the right time? Did you leave a lot of money on the table? And when it comes to Bitcoin, I mean, I thought at 38 grand, look, it's had a hell of a run. Let me take some off the table because this could come crashing right back down and I could lose the 600 that I made in 2 days. And it's going to continue and it's continued to go higher. So, I mean, this is just, it's incredibly interesting. And I don't think it's stopping now that it's past 41,000. I just really don't. Peter, thank you for the $5 super chat. Amit, most common issue that I'm seeing is that traditional investors don't understand how Bitcoin works. So they look at it from a stock perspective. Yeah. And this was honestly me. I mean, you guys have seen my journey on the market open over the past year. I really did not understand Bitcoin as an asset class. And part of that, part of that is, I'll give part of that ignorance, right? Like just pure ignorance around the asset. But also part of that is me being down $50,000 in 2022 and me not wanting to put my money in something that didn't feel like it was an asset that deserved enough due diligence because I already proved to myself I wasn't the best investor. If I'm down 50,000 in 2022, why would I just YOLO into something that's typically regarded as a meme? Now I know it's not a meme. I know there's a lot of sophistication around Bitcoin, but you know what I'm saying, right? That general sort of assumption around it. So really the hesitation towards Bitcoin from me for the past couple of years was I want to be responsible because I lost so much money. Right now that money recovered because we had a good 2023. But that was where my hesitation came from. Now, as I'm getting into it, and obviously things have cooled down, I think I have a lot more freedom and autonomy to actually dive deeper into the asset. And as I've dived deeper into the asset, I mean, look, it's starting to make sense for me in a lot of different ways. And I know a lot of people in the chats, for some people that's music to their ears. For some people that's like, I've been trying to tell you, mother effer. I've been in this chat typing all day, even though I have no profile picture, but I've been trying to tell you. And I get it. But sometimes it takes time to come to those conclusions, right? And one of the things that I think this year that has been important for me is I've learned a lot about other parts of the market, like regional banks. I learned a lot about those. I learned a lot about interest rates. So I think my 23, we should probably do an episode of like that year in review of 2023, what you learned about the stock market and equities in general. I think I learned a lot about the stock market. I have learned little about crypto. I have learned a lot since before in comparison to last year, but still little compared to what I learned about the stock market. And if that was reversed and I learned a lot more about crypto this year and then allocated capital versus less about the stock market, maybe I would be up more for the year. So, it just is what it is. And it kind of is how things play out. Philip Rizzo says, you have to understand that there are many hardcore Bitcoiners that don't trust the banks or fiat or saving in Bitcoin. Whatever percentage of holders they are no longer looking to buy fiat. And, this is a good point. Let's stick on this point for like another 5 minutes, and then we'll get onto a lot of the other news we have in the market. For those that are just joining, Bitcoin, 41,783. That's why we were seeing Coinbase up 9%. We were seeing Ride up 11%. We were seeing Clean Park up 15%. Marathon up 13%. Bitfarms up 17%. And, ladies and gentlemen, Robinhood, the one company that has always been my Bitcoin proxy, is up 4.08%, almost touching, getting closer to $10 and $9.70. So for those that do have Robinhood, hopefully you're having a decent morning, and we'll see where it actually opens at. The reason Robinhood's up, people are asking, is because of Bitcoin. Remember, Robinhood has 115,000 Bitcoins on their platform. So crypto trading in Robinhood in the month of October was up 92% year over year. Let me say that again. Crypto trading in the month of October on Robinhood, this was on their website, up 92% year over year. That number is going to be bigger in November and December. That's just October stats. Remember, Q3 is 3 months, October, November, December. So if Bitcoin and crypto is having way more volatility, and November was a 9% month for the S&P 500, and then December, even if we get some pullback, is probably not slowing down, at least for Q4 numbers for Robinhood going into February 2024, I don't think they're going to disappoint. Now, whatever happens in 2024 was whatever, but given all the momentum we're seeing, Robinhood has room to run going into 2024 because they're going to be profitable and they're probably going to put up some decent numbers given how crypto's trading. Okay, so what Philip Rizzo says, this is what I started to understand this year. There is a big segment of the population that doesn't like the banking infrastructure of the United States of America. And this is what I think took me a long time to understand this year, which is that the people that are holding Bitcoin, and the reason why there's only 30% of Bitcoin still in circulation, is because there's people that just don't like the banks. There's people that don't like fiat currencies. There's people that don't believe in them. There's people that are never going to believe in them. There's people that are never going to buy assets like stocks and equities because they don't believe in the very nature of the monetary U.S. system. And to me, I guess you could say it's a privileged perspective. That's not something I ever took that seriously this year. And quite frankly, if I took that seriously in 2017, if I took that seriously in 2016, when I first started researching Bitcoin, just like, because the bull run happened and everyone wanted to understand it. If I took that seriously in 2020, when Bitcoin crashed, I would have made a lot of money, but I didn't take that seriously. Right. And so I think like this year I've started to have a better understanding of like why there is this necessity for a segment of the population to reject the nature of traditional fiat and banking. Obviously, printing money and how we've printed money out the wazoo gets people upset. And Bitcoin is their sauce. Now, granted, I think there's other arguments for why you can push back against that and why printing money is actually good and this and that. And like, Bitcoin is not necessarily useful. I mean, there's a whole subsection of people that say it's a pure speculative instrument. You can't do anything with it. So that's why Peter Schiff and Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, they've never saw the value in an asset like that because they always thought it was greater fool theory. They always thought, okay, it goes to 40,000 because someone's willing to pay 40,000. It'll go to 50,000 if someone's willing to pay 50,000, but there's not an asset underlying the architecture of the speculative price action, which is why everyone who's playing inside of it is either dumping on retail or just playing within the scheme of Bitcoin. And I think that is a, argument that can be made. The other argument that can be made is that the reason there's a fixed amount of supply and that the reason people are speculating on the price and that the price tends to rise as, more momentum comes in is because that the US fiat system is broken and Bitcoin is ultimately the savior. And this year, I think I got a better understanding of all of that. And as a result of that, it influenced my understanding of Bitcoin. Now, let me be clear in terms of investing. I'm not buying Bitcoin here. I'm not like balls deep, throwing thousands and thousands of dollars to it because I think it's run up a lot. And so if I fully become like, all right, I'm on the Bitcoin train, yeah, I'll have some DCA set up and we'll have that as a portion of the portfolio and we'll just let it be. If this really is just the beginning and $700,000 a coin is in the future and all that stuff, then yeah, it's still a great buy right now, 40 grand. The question simply becomes, is this going to be some level of a pullback or is this really, is the train continuing to happen? And if the train continues to happen, then Bitcoin will continue to keep going. Let's see what we got in the chat. Matt says Bitcoin is better than a lot of third world currencies. That is correct. Auntie says a myth to the moon. Auntie, I appreciate you. Today, definitely Bitcoin is going to the moon. David says, yes, the people that reject the U.S. monetary system and love Bitcoin are called terrorists. I wouldn't call them terrorists, but that's kind of Chris's main point, that a lot of this is, speculative garbage and that people are doing bad things with Bitcoin. It was found out that Hamas was trading in Bitcoin. Now, I don't blame Bitcoin for that. But like, obviously that's not the best thing. Now, granted, I don't think that's Bitcoin's fault, but that's what creates the narrative around it. David says, I hate crypto because it's littered with scammers, but I'm not so dumb as to be exposed to it, which is why I've invested in the miners. Yeah. And look, I mean, that's why I think there is a lot of money to be made on Bitcoin as well. In my opinion, do I give a shit about the larger Bitcoin narrative that exists in society and all this like fancy stuff around crypto and the fiat system? Not really. And maybe that's because of my lack of research and again, ignorance around the Bitcoin as a, as the Bitcoin standard in general. But I do care about making money. And so if there's ways to make money off of it, then that's what I'm interested in. But I don't really care about that whole moral argument that people like Michael Saylor go for. And quite frankly, I think Michael Saylor also wants to make some money, right? So, I mean, if there's a way to make money, if there's proxy plays, then let's make some money. Let's keep doing it. Kevin says those men are the rich and they control the money. Of course, they don't want Bitcoin. That is also true. And, that's why BlackRock's ETF of Bitcoin, I think, is really exciting for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, if BlackRock is trying to offer it, then BlackRock, which is, the largest, I guess, player in the stock market, given how much they own of the stock market, they're like, you know what, even if we got to pump it, let's bring it to consumers, because if it's going to pump and we own a shit ton of it, then we're going to make a shit ton of money as well. So, even BlackRock is like, I want to make some more money. Kelly says she loves trains. I love trains as well. Trains are very interesting to like be on a train. And then, those who are on the Bitcoin train, I think, are also the cool thing about people that have been on the Bitcoin train for the past couple of years is that they've stomached the volatility. There was a great quote yesterday by someone who's a friend of mine, 10-year at 4.268, by the way. We're about to transition to macro, that says everyone deserves Bitcoin at the price they buy it at. And that's a really philosophical I say quote and tweet. I meant to say quote, but it was a tweet. It's a very philosophical quote, because it's like, yeah, when you discover Bitcoin, you deserve it at the price you get it at. It is this asset that has been around since 2013. Those that bought it at $1,000, they deserved it at the price they got it at. And those that bought it at $69,000 because they didn't get it until it got to the top, they also deserved it at the price they bought it at. So, I think you can apply that to every stock in the stock market. You deserve the price you get an asset at when you discover and fully understand when to buy it. And it's this kind of, philosophical argument about personal autonomy and accountability, right? Like, if you decide to buy an asset and it goes down, you have to deal with that because you decided to buy at that time, and you have to be a big boy and deal with the fact that you are making big boy decisions. So I think the same thing here when it comes to Bitcoin. If you have a $40,000 average on it, then, you deserve to have a $40,000 average because you didn't get it before 40,000. So I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, so we've gone through Bitcoin a lot for the past 20 minutes. Let's move on to some of the other stuff that's going on that's pumping this market. First of all, let's take a look at what's going on in the macro. We got the 10-year obviously at 4.27. That's really good for stocks. Friday was a great day after the market open. I discussed. After the market open, we had just the market rallied like by 1 or 2 p.m. So I ended around 10 a.m. By 1 or 2 p.m., the market just like took off like crazy and everything started going up. TFC was up 3%. Robinhood did really well. Sofi started touching closer to $7.80 now, closer to $8 in the pre-market. And that's because this 10-year is at 4.2. We see that 10-year continue to come down. It's going to go really good. I had Dan Ives on the channel. Thank you to everyone who watched that live stream. It meant the world to me. And Dan Ives reiterated his stance that, look, it's a tech bull market. It's not going anywhere. And this tech bull market is going to continue into 2024 because these companies are not stopping. On our channel, we talked about Apple, Microsoft, Palantir, and NVIDIA. And his core thesis was just that his team is talking to all these people in the enterprise that are deciding they're going to spend 8 to 10% of budgets on AI. And if they're spending that much of budgets on AI, then AI is not really going anywhere. AI is only going to be continuing accentuating its dominance into the enterprise. And if it's going to keep going into the enterprise, then that means enterprises are going to keep spending. And if enterprises are going to keep spending, then that means there's going to be more momentum for AI-enabled services, which could take those tech stocks continue to go higher. He was on CNBC this morning. We're going to listen to him in a second. But that is a big part of why I think we saw Friday continue to do well. Now, the only concern I have here, let me pull up the equity markets. Amit has a part-time job selling life health insurance and reverse mortgages with that tie. Is the tie that bad? Is it really a loser in some office with, is that, I mean, it kind of is, but I also thought it was like gold. So I was like, oh, it looks nice. Well, I have a bunch of ties and I'm just going to debut a new tie every day. What I am concerned about in the market is that oh wow, S&P's at 455 in the pre-market. I did not know that. We were down almost 1% in the pre-market, and it kind of makes sense we're down 1%. So we closed at 459. We were just shy 40 cents of closing at we did beat the 52-week high. So we beat the 52-week high. 52-week high was 49.44. We beat it at 459.65. It was 459.44. Now at 459.65. Now at 455.82. December tends to be early December where you have a lot of tax loss harvesting and you have rebalancing of positions and portfolios. And so one could argue that the start of December is actually going to be a little choppy. And if it's going to be a little choppy, then that's going to be not necessarily the best for the equity markets because things are going to come down. Now, granted, it's going to be choppy, in those first couple of weeks, but then going into Christmas, that's when we see the rally. And I actually think that would be a golden scenario. If people get another dip in the first 2 weeks of December, right? Let's say over the next 10 days, market dips like 3%. We're going to see these equities come down. There's going to be the ability to purchase companies you would have wanted to purchase at, better prices. And then we get a rally going into January because that market euphoria comes in and Santa Claus comes to town. And then in January, all bets are off the table. I have no idea what's going on in 2024. I think we need to get some more data. December FOMC meeting is on the 12th. And I really do think Jay Powell is going to put the hammer down and say, look, we meant 2% is 2% inflation targets. You guys are getting way too excited. Do realize we are coming out of one of the worst economic, time periods we've had since 2008. So you guys can't just be all euphoric right now. And I kind of think the market's not going to believe him. And the market's going to say, we don't care because we know you're not raising rates again. And if we know you're not raising rates again, then we're going to continue to keep the thing going. The CME Fed Watch tool, which is one of the most highly accurate tools when it comes to understanding what the Fed is doing, they have interest rates starting to come up or starting to go down at a 30% chance in March, which was unheard of even 3 weeks ago. Forget months ago. 3 weeks ago, it was May is the first time there's going to be a cut. Now it's like, 30%. The CME tool is putting on March is when we get that first cut because inflation's coming down dramatically. And if inflation comes down dramatically in the next December, January, and February CPI, well, then what is the Fed going to have to do in March? If we're at 2.8% inflation, 2.6% inflation, there's not a reacceleration. It's going to be really hard for the Fed to justify it. On top of that, and I think a lot of people know about this, the interest payments we are paying on the United States debt is more than our defense budget at this point. That is not sustainable. And the Fed's, I think, going to be like, all right, we're bringing it down. And when you bring it down, I think even if it is brief, even if it's only for a month, equities are going to absolutely rally. They're like companies like Enphase are going to benefit from that. Companies like Tesla are going to benefit from that. Companies like Palantir are going to benefit. Now, granted, some of these companies are super high up in their valuation, right? So like a Snowflake that typically would benefit from decreased rates, they're valued at $61 billion. But if they take a breather, if Palantir takes a breather in the next couple of weeks, for example, Palantir goes down 10%, Snowflake goes down 10%. When that interest rate comes in, they're going to go back up because those interest rates are incredibly bullish for these companies that Palantir doesn't need access to capital because they have no debt. But if they did need it, then it would be really beneficial. So I think we're going to see momentum and we're going to see a rally. The question is, how long is it going to be? And, is it going to be a Goldilocks zone where you take your profits and run before, shit really hits the fan? And so I think that's kind of the scary part about what we're seeing here. Another point I want to bring up, and then we'll listen to Dan Ives. This was a good tweet by Sachin over the weekend, which kind of encapsulates my thoughts as well about what's going on here, which is he said, let's pull this up right here. Let me see if I can pull this up. He basically said that the rally is it feels very not real. Okay, here we go. He says, never have I seen in a time in history where the Fed starts rate cuts with markets and several mega companies making all-time highs or 2 to 3 year highs. It is usually the opposite. So basically in his investing career, he's been investing for the past 2 decades. He has not seen companies hitting all-time highs right before the Fed starts rate cuts. It's typically the opposite. The Fed starts rate cuts and then those companies start to moon. So basically saying, look, Microsoft's at $3 trillion. When the Fed rate cuts, that's great for Microsoft. But is it really going to like 3.2 trillion? Is it really going to get all that momentum given it's up 50% year to date? So he says, in my opinion, this rally is running ahead of itself. But for now, let's make some money. And I kind of agree. Like, you could say the rally is getting ahead of itself, but in the meantime, let's make some money, which is why I sold those calls on Bitfarms, because I was like, all right, the rally is getting ahead of itself, but let's make some money because the money's here. And so, that's kind of what we're seeing right now. We got Enphase at 110. Wow, I didn't even see that. Thanks for that, Benny, in the chat. We got 10 minutes to the market open. Thank you all for being here. End phase. Well, it's not 110 yet. It's 106. I thought it's not $110 yet. It is 106, but end phase continuing to have a good run as well. End phase bottomed at 73.49. It seems like that was the bottom, and then the market was like, "This is stupid." At a $12 billion market cap, and the market bought it up. Coinbase up 7%, Marathon up 12%, Riot up 10%, Robinhood up 2.3%, MicroStrategy up 6.89%, and CleanSpark up 13%. All the Bitcoin stocks are slightly down from where they were up at the peak in the pre-market. For example, Coinbase was up 10%, Robinhood was up 5%. So they came down a little bit as we're getting closer to the market open. So they might open green, but not as green as they were in the pre-market. So we'll see. That means there's a little bit of more selling pressure in the pre-market, people taking some off the table because they don't want to have that much exposure as they did in the earlier time of the pre-market. But there might be a wave of momentum that comes in at 9:30 on these companies, and these companies tend to do a little bit better. So this is going to be a very exciting market open. Palantir down about 2%. That's okay. 1980. I think we've said on the market open, if it ends the year at 19 or 20, we'll be happy because it's run up a lot. So now it's just got to maintain those gains, which means there have to be enough buyers to be able to pick up shares at the level. Google's down at 131. Google's down 1%. Meta's down 2% at 317. Meta was at 340 a couple of weeks ago. Amazon at 145, down 1.04%. NVIDIA at 460, down 1.55%. We are seeing the transition from large cap tech into other assets. Look at that. Microsoft is at 384. Microsoft's at 370. I did say on that Finance Junkie stream, hey, I think Microsoft's a landmine, and I got made fun of that. And the reason I said it's a landmine was nothing about Microsoft, the company. It's just that it's at all-time highs. I don't know how much all-time highs can keep becoming all-time highs on big tech when big tech is not a small cap. You're moving hundreds of billions of dollars in their market cap. Like, it's not that easy for it to keep going higher and higher and higher. It's like the S&P, right? 1% down on the S&P is a pretty bad day because it's a lot of momentum leaving the index. So from that perspective, look, big large cap tech might not be the move going into December. Quite frankly, because it's run up a lot, and that's the other thing. December might be choppy in the first couple of weeks. People want to take some profits. People want to actually solidify some gains, and that could also be a little harder for the equity markets to console. But that means small cap, FOMs, mid cap, Russell 2000, those companies could do well as well. Serge says only thing to worry about Bitcoin is a whale games, but that will just be a buyer's opportunity. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I think, if there is a Bitcoin decline back to 34, 35, there's going to be a lot of retail that piles in. But the question becomes how much of retail is going to get scared if they bought in and then sell if they saw it come down and they feel that it's going to, start going down. I don't know. This is going to be really interesting. Franco says money is rotating to crypto. That is also something that I think is happening, and it's happening at levels that are unprecedented in the past couple of weeks. I mean, again, for those that are just joining, Bitcoin, $41,000 trying to close it on 42,000. It did touch 42,000. This is going to get a lot of people excited. And really, this is the time to make money on crypto, because if you've been in Riot and Marathon and Coinbase for the past 2 years, you've had a tough 2 years, right? In the past 6 months, you've had an amazing 6 months, right? CleanSpark was at 90 cents or something in December of 2022. So it was rough for a while. It was at 174. You got to 174, not 90 cents. That's a different coin. But 174 on December 30th, 2022. And so, if you really saw that bottom and you saw the momentum around this company and you bought in, then you're doing great. You're up 8x. But the question is, how long did it take to get there? Obviously, if you bought in at the top, it was at 15. So you wrote it down to $1. So there's two sides of this. There are people who are just discovering it and making money, and there's people who are just breaking even. Like, someone posted their Coinbase holdings yesterday, and they just broke even on Coinbase. And I was like, damn, bro, I forgot people bought Coinbase at really high levels. And it's finally getting back to $140. People were buying it down from 400 all the way down. Jim Cramer said he liked Coinbase at 445 in 2020. So it is definitely two sides of the coin here of people that are making money on these assets. Surge's average price on Bitcoin is $18,000 and coin is $50. That's incredible. Congratulations to the people that are making money in crypto right now, because you deserve to make money. I mean, the volatility is high. If you're making money on crypto, you deserve to make some money. Let's listen to Dan Ives say we're in the new tech AI bull market. He was on CNBC this morning, and then we'll get into the market open.
Looking ahead to 2024, give us a sense. Where does spending when it comes to tech and specifically AI, where does it go next year after this boom in 2023?
I think it accelerates, because what we're really now seeing is $1 trillion of spend is hitting the shores of tech. It's not just NVIDIA and Microsoft. So when I look at software, chips across the board, I believe it's the start of a new tech bull market. And we believe next year tech stocks are up at least 20% plus. It's AI, it's cybersecurity, it's software. I think this is just a start.
So Dan, in all fairness, we've heard you say this a number of times. You've continued to be very bullish on tech from the start of this year, and you've been right. But aren't there some headwinds going into next year? I mean, the possibility of recession, other things. I mean, are there any things that you think could slow down this run?
In my opinion, no. And look, I think that's where the bears have been misguided this year, is that continuing to kind of focus on the 10-year Fed recession. Unless there's a telescope, it's hard to find that recession. I look at what I believe from all the work that we do, it's the biggest tech transformation in 30 years.
Really? Okay.
In terms of AI. And this is, to me, it's a 1995 moment. And the difference now with this new note, going into next year, I don't believe it stops. I think tech stocks, this continues, but I think it's going to be broader. It's not just going to be big tech. It's going to be software, chips, small, mid-cap.
And this is why Dan is excited about Palantir. I mean, he was on my channel, the live stream. We did it on Friday. So if you haven't watched it, you can check it out. He is excited because he doesn't give a shit about the 10-year, doesn't give a shit about the Fed, doesn't give a shit about the macro. He's a tech analyst. And his argument is like, look, I'm traveling 2 million air miles a year looking at this technology, speaking to people who have to pay for this technology, and it's not stopping. It's not going anywhere. So you can talk about the 10-year all you want, but these companies are going to keep moving forward regardless of what the stock market thinks. And eventually the stock market can't deny when the revenue comes in, those EPS numbers comes in. And that's why he's excited, especially about some of these small caps, Snowflake, Mongo, Palantir. Those are some of the ones he has on his list that could be really big in 2024.
In my opinion, a lot of the bears, they could just go back into hibernation mode.
Any concerns about this possibly being a bubble? I mean, we've seen a lot of talk about AI. Almost everybody's an AI company right now, but the actual use cases have been generally somewhat limited.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest maybe debates. Look, for all the work that we do around the world in AI, we have over 80 use cases for AI. 3 months ago, it was 15. And I think the difference is that, look, for someone like myself, covered tech since the late 90s, I've seen a lot of bubbles. This is as real of a trending that we've seen going back to what I viewed 30 years. And that's why you look at names like Palantir, MongoDB, Snowflake, and of course, in the trophy case in Redmond.
All right, so you're leading me into your note. You gave us some picks. Some of those picks include Palo Alto, Palantir, Zscaler, MongoDB, in addition to Apple, Microsoft, and Google. I want to dig in on one of the cybersecurity names here, Palo Alto.
Okay, we got the market open in about a minute, folks, so we're going to get started on that. Thank you all for being here. But yeah, I mean, look, Dan's bullish. He's bullish on where the world is going. And quite frankly, I have been playing with LLMs over the past couple weeks. I think I told you guys this. I've been playing with LLMs very seriously, very seriously. And the amount of sophistication within this technology, I cannot until you get your hands on actually training a model and playing with it and like testing it and seeing how it delivers answers and understanding how the vector database it goes through the embedding process to be able to create the answers to user queries. It is like as I'm playing with it, I'm like, no. This is legitimately like one of the most incredible things in the world. This is not just getting answers from ChatGPT. When you're making your own LLM and you're really diving into it, LLMs are not just chatbots. They're a form of compute. And I think that's the thing that some people are missing out when it comes to AI. It's a literal new form of compute, which is a whole new way of computing writ large across any type of a use case that you have for it. As Dan says, there are 300 use cases versus like 15 over the past couple of weeks that he's been able to discover. So those LLMs, this AI revolution, it's not stopping for anybody. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The question is if the stock market respects it. And at least today, we are going to find out how much the stock market respects what's going on. December 4th, 2023, 9:30 a.m. Thank you all for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. We are here in the stock market, and let's see what we've got going on and where things are going right now. Robinhood, $9.42, opens up 0.87%. So Robinhood is actually Not as high as it was when it opened up. Robinhood was around 970 right now at 942, up 1% on the day. Snowflake 184, Enphase 107. Enphase opens up high. Microsoft 368. So Microsoft opens down a little bit. Microsoft opens down from that 384 level that it was at. MicroStrategy's up 8%, 572. Robinhood at 9.42. Riot up 10%, $15.22. Riot up 10% on the day. Marathon 1535 up 12%. Coinbase $142 up 6% on the day. Coinbase was up about 10% of the pre-markets. Right now, Coinbase is up 5%, 141. All of this for those that are just joining because Bitcoin hit 42,000 this morning, currently at 41,000. Bitfarms, company that I was in, 14% up, $1.90. So we got Bitfarms that is up as well. CRM is at 254. Affirm is at 37. Affirm also having a phenomenal year, up almost 90% on the month, not the year, on the month, which is absolutely incredible for Affirm. So we're seeing some momentum there as it starts to go a bit higher. Amazon at 144, Google at 130. Google's down. Wow. Google just hit below. Hit below 130. I'm seeing on the chart, it hit 129. So Google is red. Meta is red at 315. PayPal is kind of up a little bit, 0.57% at 59.98. Square's at 65. Square's continue to do well. SoFi 775. It's down on the day. It was up close to $8 in the pre-market. Now it's down 775. What else do we have? Hims at 888, Hut 8 Mined. Oh, no, this one's not there. NASDAQ 14,150. So NASDAQ opens down 1%. That's big. NASDAQ opening down 1%, and S&P, I think it's down basically 1%. Yeah, 0.72. It's very close to 1%. So we're seeing the indices in the broader market wants to chill for a little bit. We are not seeing a super, super strong open on this. It wants to relax just a little bit right now and chill before it goes super, super, super higher. MicroStrategy at 559, that's up 6%. CleanSpark up 18%. So CleanSpark is rallying. That one, this is probably the best out of all the Bitcoin companies that's going up. CleanSpark, a Bitcoin energy miner, this one's going up a lot. So we're seeing CleanSpark up 18%. Let me know in the chat if you're in any of the Bitcoin miners at all. They've become very popular of a topic on Twitter as we've been discussing them. Obviously, a good proxy, I guess, to Bitcoin. So CleanSpark up 18%. The $10 calls, by the way, you guys are going to think I'm a super noob for this, but I'm going to admit it. I don't care. I just found out how you can find out the open interest of an option in terms of the amount of contracts that are open on Robinhood. So now I can see how many contracts, like the CleanSpark $10 call. I think there's 30,000 of them opened or something for 2025. I didn't know you could click on a button and see how many contracts were open. I didn't know you could assess the amount of liquidity in the actual contract. So I found that out over the weekend. I was like, oh, this is very helpful to figure out if this is a contract you want to get into or not. So I figured that out, and CleanSpark has a lot of $10 call options open for 2025. So, when you have a call option that has a crap ton of liquidity, obviously there's a lot of buyers, a lot of sellers. There's, if you get in at the right price, there's ways to make money, but that is something that is up right now as well. CleanSpark up now 21% on the day. Goodness gracious. I keep making typos when I text for some reason. I've noticed over the past couple of days, as I text, I'm literally making a typo. And apparently Apple has this edit feature now where you can literally edit a message. And I never had this before. So I'm editing my message now. And I guess when I'm speaking, I'm also making typos as I speak, which is really annoying, but I don't know why it's happening, but it's happening. Robinhood 951 up 2%. Where's Palantir? Crypto has been so exciting. I haven't checked on Palantir. Palantir 1948. All right. Palantir's down 4%. Palantir's down. My Robinhood calls are up. We're up 45% of the calls. So Robinhood obviously is doing well, and that's giving some momentum here. But everything else seems to be heading a bit more south on what's going on right now. So we've got Palantir down about 3%. Robinhood's up. Enphase is at 107. It's up 1%. Microsoft is down. Dude, seeing big tech get slashed is hard to see, because for people that were buying big tech, whoever was buying Microsoft at 384 because he thought Microsoft's going to the moon, I don't know what to tell you. That was just fucking stupid. Buying Microsoft at all-time highs was absolutely stupid. After a year like this, at the end of the year to buy it at all-time highs, I just feel like that was not smart. Even Nvidia, I know Nvidia was cheap at 500, but still buying it at 500, really buying it, DCAing is fine, but really establishing a position at 500 at all-time high, I just feel like it's not that smart. I just especially if it's run up a lot. And Nvidia was up 200% year to date. Microsoft was up a lot. That was a lot. So that was tough. What's his name? Adam says minor stocks is terrible to trade, extremely high compared to the assets. Help with that said, yes, I'm invested in them. They do make sense. No sense. It's an anomaly. Yeah, minor stocks in general as an investment, probably not a good investment because like logically think of it. Why would you invest in a Bitcoin mining company? Eventually, Bitcoin's going to go through cycles where the mining is not that exciting anymore, at least for the time being, and there's going to be no momentum. But as a trade, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some insiders in CleanSpark or Marathon or whatever start selling. In fact, we should check that out. We should try that right now. CleanSpark insider selling. Because like if I was a CleanSpark insider, I would be selling some stock. I mean, you don't know if the Bitcoin rally is going to end or not. I mean, if you have conviction on it, okay. But if it goes down, your stock's up almost 800% since the lows. The other thing that's important to remember about what we're seeing here in the context of Bitcoin is CleanSpark. I spoke to Matthew Schultz. Okay. He's the executive chairman of CleanSpark. I actually spoke to him a year ago. I did a podcast and he sold Bitcoin at 69,000. And I literally on the podcast, I was like, oh, so you paper handed. And he started laughing. He was like, well, it was the top. And so don't think that these insiders at the company are just hodlers and they're just going to hold it forever. Like they saw the top and they sold. So it's not like, these people are just having unwavering belief in Bitcoin. If they think that, dude, the stock's doing well, Bitcoin's doing well, we got to take some action on it. They will sell because they've done that in the past. And, the executive chairman literally told me that to his face. So, if they think it's run up a lot, then they are going to probably be selling as well. Or they might keep holding. We will see. I'm looking at CleanSider insider activity. I don't see a lot of selling. I don't see a lot of selling at all. CleanSpark insiders, number of buys. In fact, well, there's only been 9 sells in the past 3 months, which is not too crazy. Yeah. Oh, wait, here we go. Let me go on sells. Yeah, there hasn't been a sell since October 26th. So, I mean, maybe they're going to unload the boat in December, but so far, these insiders are bullish about it. And look, I mean, it obviously makes sense. By the way, JP Morgan called CleanSpark as their best Bitcoin miner. I read a report from them on October 13th. So, Bitcoin, JP Morgan has been excited about CleanSpark as a Bitcoin miner for a while, but now, the rest of the market is kind of catching up on it. Obviously, it's up really nicely over the past 3 months. Enphase breaks $108, trying to touch 109 at 108.99. Absolutely incredible for Enphase. Snowflake 187, it's up. Arc Innovation is up. Coinbase continuing its rally at 6%. Riot, it's up. Robinhood up 4% on the day. Robinhood continuing to get some of that momentum there. We're seeing Robinhood go higher. Bitfarms is down. It was at $2. Now it's at 182. So we're seeing Robinhood start to come down just a little bit more. Not Robinhood come down. Bitfarms come down, but Robinhood continued to go higher, up 4%. So Robinhood came down from its pre-market highs of 4%. Now it's right back up there at that 4% range, $9.70. Amazon is down. Google's down. Meta's down. All big tech is down. SoFi, wow, $8. When did that happen? That just happened out of nowhere. There you go. Up 2%. Look at that. Not bad. SoFi at $8. Not bad at all. So if I got there, Truist, by the way, had a phenomenal Friday. Truist was up almost 4%. So Truist did really, really well, breaking that $33 barrier. Again, regional banks, those AOIC losses with loans, when the Fed cuts rates, and if they cut them by March, literally the book value of the company has to go up because they have less losses, because those interest rates coming down means that the delta between the interest rate they issued a loan at and the current Fed's fund rate goes down, which means they add millions and billions of dollars onto their assets. So really good for Truist, seeing it go higher. Interest rates are going to help it. SoFi now breaking $8, $8.03. That's really nice to see on SoFi. It's been a while since we saw some of that momentum on SoFi, so that's good to see. Someone says, what do you think about Elf Beauty? I like it, but I don't know enough to buy it at $124. It grows like a beast. Really exciting company. It was at $20 in 2022. Obviously, it's done really well. But I don't know enough about them to be like, yeah, I think the growth is going to continue. The hardest part about Elf is like, can the growth continue, even though the growth has been pretty phenomenal. Kelly says, new 52-week high on Affirm again. This one is interesting. Someone bought like 30,000 shares of Affirm on Robinhood, and they tweeted it to me, and they were up like 60 grand. I was like, dude, I'm not going to tell you to sell, but it's not bad. And if they didn't sell, they're probably up like 80 grand now, because Affirm continuing to go higher, $38.60. The Affirm run up, though, quite frankly, it feels like a lot of stupid shit to be, because like, why is Affirm running? Because Amazon had a lot of packages they sold on Black Friday. Affirm has an Amazon package or Amazon a partnership for buy now, pay later. So the market's like, oh, well, Affirm's going to do well because buy now, pay later went up. And like, I get it, but if the thesis on the company is cyclical on one weekend of shopping, does it deserve to be up 90%? Like, I don't know. I mean, now granted, the market cap's 11 billion, which I know nothing about the company, but 11 billion seems kind of like, it's definitely a small cap. So on top of the small cap narrative, plus, I mean, I haven't seen their growth rate, but if their growth is over 30% year over year, you could argue that like maybe Affirm really does deserve more than the 52-week low of $8.62, even if it doesn't deserve like a $40, $50 price target. So I don't know a lot about Affirm. I have to go deeper into them, but we are seeing momentum based on like consumer being strong for Black Friday and the market rewarding Affirm for that consumer continuing to be strong. SoFi's up 3.7%. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. SoFi, $8.09. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. What is causing this? Honestly, I think it's just rotation to small cap and fintech starting to do well. Starting to do a lot higher. SoFi breaks $8. There we go. Yeah, I mean, look, this was needed for SoFi. SoFi was stuck at $6 for a while. I loaded up 210 contracts on SoFi for about $12, 2026. And I bought 25 more contracts on Thursday, and I had a ridiculous execution price. Like the price of the contract was way higher than the price I bid for. And in like 5 minutes, it gave me the price. And I was like, well, okay, I'll take it. And then I was like in the money within 5 minutes of buying the option. I was like, I don't know what happened on Robinhood for that to happen, but they gave me it. So I think I'm loaded up for SoFi. I'm good. I'm loaded up. I don't want to add to it. I'm in. I think I caught close to the bottom for the 2026 options. I could be wrong if we get a relapse, but I think I caught a decent bottom. And so I'm ready for SoFi to go to the moon. So Anthony Noto, I'm on your train. Don't sell any stock because then this stock's going to crash because the reason it's doing well is because he bought some stock. But or it's Anthony Noto's world and we're living it in. Let's see what happens. Even if the chief risk officer is selling all of the stock. 816 on SoFi, up 4.2% on the day. So SoFi's rallying. SoFi is rallying. Nice to see SoFi get the momentum and begin to rally and seeing it start to take off. Enphase at 107, Snowflake 188. Spotify. These guys are up today. The reason Spotify is at $200 and they're up 11%, something a lot of you guys probably didn't see. Amit likes the bottom, indeed. I do like catching the bottom. I do. I brought spreads, Real Baby Pluto. I brought spreads. That's a great name, Real Baby Pluto. Reminds me of Lil Uzi. I brought spreads. So is 50. It's the strikes are 12 and 17. So bought the 12, sold the 17. Do I think SoFi can be 17 by January 2026? I think so. I think it can be at least 12. I think 17 honestly is very possible. I think 12 is definitely happening, but I could be wrong about it. So we'll see. But it is 2026, so we have 2 years. The reason Spotify is up right now is because they're cutting 17% of their employees, and the market loves it. The market absolutely loves it. So Spotify posted a profit for the first time, not the first time, but for the first time in a while, a couple of weeks ago. So that is what got the market excited. And when you cut 17% of the workforce, I mean, dude, 17% is not a joke. Like 17%, it actually, so from a macro perspective, it feels a little scary that 17% of a major tech company is being laid off, and it's not 2022, it's 2023. But this could be specific to Spotify in particular. And the reason it's specific to Spotify, let me just pull this up real quick because this definitely affects the broader market. In a note to employees, Daniel Ek said Spotify invested too much in 2020, 2021. It has to right size its costs. Spotify reported a $65 million profit for the third quarter. 17% of employees are being laid off. So the reason for this is likely because they gave Joe Rogan $100 million. When you give Joe Rogan $100 million, like someone's losing their job. If it's not now, it's in the future, but Joe Rogan can't make $100 million and no one loses their job. I mean, like Spotify's not that big of a company to be able to do that. They don't have like the cash like Google or Amazon could have to throw at someone and just like use it as a loss leader. Like they're barely making a profit, right? So 17% is tough. I think this is great for Spotify. It's going to increase their cost cutting measures and help the company perform better in a tough music environment. But what does it say about the broader ecosystem of the stock market when we're seeing we're seeing some of these layoffs. Now, granted, if it's consolidated to Spotify, it's not a big deal, but it fits in line with some of the macro trends we've been seeing, that unemployment's going up. Even though it's not going up a lot, we are seeing more job loss claims get on the board. And it's something to worry about in 2024 if that becomes a bigger issue, because if people don't have a job, there is no consumer that can be strong, right? Consumers can't really make money if that's the case. So I think that's something to think about as well as we look at what's going on with Spotify. SLG is doing really well. SLG was another stock we talked about. It's a real estate REIT. I was actually talking to Steve over the weekend. He got us into SLG. $41, $42 now. Over the past month, it's up 24%. Year to date, Bad Boy's up 24%. 3 months is up 10%. It bottomed at $19 back in March. And I did make some money. I made like $400 on SLG, but then I moved out of it. It was paying a 16% dividend at the time, and you got 50% capital appreciation. This is another one of those companies that was just beaten down because of COVID, but the dividend was great and the capital appreciation was great. Same thing with Verizon and same thing with TFC. Verizon as well is doing really good. Verizon at $38.50. I was talking to Chris on Friday about Verizon. He's doing well on Verizon. Let's just say that he's doing well on Verizon. Bay Ray says, Amit, what are you wearing? Bay Ray, because you have no culture, it is called a tie. I know you don't wear ties because you have like zero culture, but yes, there are professionals in the adult corporate world that do have to wear ties when they go to work. And I am no exception to one of those adults. This is work. It's really fun work, but it's work. And so I wear a tie and that's what we do. PayPal, let's go to PayPal. Above $60. Okay. So PayPal's moving. We got some action on PayPal. As I say, this Bitcoin now 41,673. So Bitcoin down just a little bit, but still over 41 grand. And we got PayPal going higher as well. Let's check in on Palantir. Palantir 1954 down 3%. I expected Palantir to be down while everything is up. And the reason for this is because obviously Palantir is just run up so much that you probably expect it to like stabilize here. But in general, you know, we will see if Palantir can make a move higher above $20 if the market really does rally. Until then, we're probably going to see a little bit of a pullback just because it's run up a lot, even though the market's up. Enphase trying to make $110, 109.48. Enphase is the comeback kid of the century. You know how Dan Ives gives all these names to these stocks? I kind of like that. And I think I'm going to steal it. I'm going to start giving names to these companies and reference them by these names. So like Enphase to me is the heartbreak comeback kid of the century at $109, coming back up from 73. Enphase doing phenomenal. Snowflake at 188. Robinhood at 963, up 3.27%. Tesla is down 236. Dude, Tesla's been so stuck over the past couple of weeks. It's like just absolutely been stuck in the past couple of weeks with Tesla. It's like, you know, when you get stuck in the washing machine, that Tesla's just stuck in the washing machine, and Tesla's asking, you know, their stepsister to help them get out of the washing machine, but they're just stuck in the washing machine and they're not getting out. Like you know, it's stuck. $237. It's barely moved. It went to 250 for that Cybertruck, but it couldn't get above 250, and then it sold off. Obviously, Tesla hit 299 at the top back in July of 2023, and ever since then, it did fall below 200 at one point. I think there's going to need to be a real catalyst to get Tesla excited. One of the things that someone said about Tesla was that if Wall Street can't project their growth, then they're not going to give them a lot of momentum. And now so much of Wall Street is like part of the Tesla story. And so I think they're struggling to kind of think, what is the Cybertruck going to grow like? You know, how many deliveries are actually going to happen? What are the international issues going on with the company? And until that's resolved, you know, it's going to be a little harder to get more price targets raised on Tesla as well. SoFi, let's go to SoFi. SoFi, something a little bit more exciting right now. SoFi, $8.21, up 5%. If you caught SoFi at 630, which was the low, I think, let's do 821 minus 6.3 divided by 6.3. You were up 30% on your SoFi in the past, basically month. So SoFi is up. Calls on SoFi, I'm looking at right now, up 22% on my position. So SoFi is doing pretty damn well, not bad at all, continuing to maintain this momentum. And yeah, I mean, SoFi's doing good. SoFi's up 813 now, 812. Elf Beauty 125, Clean Spark 915. Clean Spark still up 19% of the day. Palantir 1942, going down a little bit. Arc Innovation 4870. Arc trying to get to that $50 range, but it's down. SoFi was beaten down too much. Yeah, I agree. SoFi was beaten down too much. Beyond Meat is up 20%. Why is Beyond Meat up 20%? Oh boy, now you know where things are getting a little things are getting a little nutty. Beyond Meat up 20%. Why is Beyond Meat up 20%? What's going on here? Is there any news on Beyond Meat? Let me Google this real quick. What's going on? What is happening here? Because this is like either peak meme-ish or there's something going on. I am very curious about this. Beyond Meat. This has been a name that's been stuck for a long time. Beyond Meat. I mean, if there's some news, I'm willing to. I don't see any news. There was a downgrade a month ago. So if it's just random, then we're getting into that part of the market cycle where things are getting excited. Shorts could be covering. That is correct. Shorts could be covering. That could be happening. They're making a new bug patty for everyone who didn't buy Bitcoin. Oh my God. Does Beyond Meat have exposure to Bitcoin somehow? It's like, dude, Beyond Meat looks like it's a Bitcoin miner right now. I mean, that's actually a great tweet. Thank you, Philip Rizzo, for inspiring that tweet. That is a great tweet. I've got to put that out there. That's great. By the way, guys, do you guys know what happened on Twitter this weekend? Something crazy happened on Twitter this weekend. I have to show you guys what happened. This was insane. Okay. This just reminded me the law of exponential geometric moves when it comes to anything in life. And I think it'll be worth looking at for those that are attempting to build anything or start anything. We posted on the Daily Palantir account, which is the brand account I run with someone else, my good friend Andrew. It's essentially a media company around Palantir, right? We cover Palantir day in and day out, 24/7. And if no one's following this, you should follow this. It has 10.5 thousand followers. On Saturday, it had 9,700. It's at 10.5. That's almost 700 followers in a day. The reason for that is because we posted this video of Karp talking, which, by the way, I'm going to play in a second because for those that haven't seen it, it's an absolutely amazing video. It has 550,000 views. The reason it has 550,000 views is because Bill freaking Ackman retweeted it, which was insane, dude. Bill Ackman retweeting a tweet. He has 890,000 followers. So as soon as he retweeted it, like the thing just blew up into a different. It felt like Bitcoin really over the weekend. I mean, like this is what I mean by exponential movers. Like, we were posting content. We were getting maybe 20 followers a day for like the past couple months. One tweet can literally gain you. It can change the trajectory of your account, right? So shout out to Bill Ackman for retweeting it. And let's take a look. This is a 1-minute clip of Karp for those that haven't seen it. Basically, Karp said Elon's go F yourself in a more classier way at the Reagan Defense Summit. I'll be talking about this on Daily Palantir episode today, but let's take a look at what he said.
Very hard to see the future. I think what, first of all, there were unfortunately way too many people on October 7th who were happy. And we have to acknowledge we have a huge problem in the Western world with anti-Semitism. And we cannot, not all criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism, but a larger portion of it is than we realized. And we have to call it out. And I'm one of the largest donors to the Democratic Party. And quite frankly, I'm calling it out and I'm giving to Republicans. If you keep up with this behavior, I'm going to change. A lot of people like me are going to change. We have to really call this out. It is completely beyond the bounds. That's before you get to the Israel thing. Most Americans who are not at elite institutions see this battle for what it is. You see a one side which is powered by terrorism, that is using terrorist means, and that will expand its footprint to the West if it's not pushed back. And I am not a legislator, but I am running one of the coolest companies in the world. And I'm telling young people, you are breathing the vapors of a dangerous, new, fake, and self-destructive religion when you are sitting at your elite school pretending because you watched TikTok twice and got an A+ on some crazy paper because your professor couldn't get a job anywhere else, that you actually understand the world. And you're not welcome at my company.
Yeah.
That was a moment. Some Palantir employees on Twitter were saying that they were at the Ronald Reagan Library in California. By the way, I went there in 2016. I wore a tie that looked a little better than this one. I actually have the video. I'm going to pull it up for a second, just show you guys a screenshot of me doing that. And they said the energy in the room when Karp was talking, like they could feel people were just like enamored by what he was trying to say. And basically his argument was like, look, we cannot be friendly with China and poo-pooing on Western values and freedom and liberty and all this type of stuff because like we have this like weird affinity towards these values in not in the West that are corroding our society. And he kind of, put the cherry on top with the whole idea of like, you go to some elite college and you write about some shit, acting like you know about the world. You don't know shit about the world. What's actually going on in the world is what, you need to pay attention to. And so he was savage, as Erwin says in the chat. He was absolutely savage in that tweet. And I was thinking, over the weekend, why did Bill Ackman retweet it? And I think it's because a lot of institutional fund managers, which got me thinking as well, could Bill Ackman ever, in the tiniest of universes, potentially buy Palantir? Definitely philosophically, he's aligned with Alex Karp, the CEO, his values, the ideas around the company, what the company stands for. Bill Ackman has really hated the whole glorification of Hamas that's kind of happened over the past couple of weeks in certain scenarios. Not just there is legitimate criticism of Israel, as Karp says, but there is also like some weird glorification that like those terrorist attacks were good, and especially in the West, that's happening. And so one could argue maybe Bill Ackman is like looking at this. That's why he retweeted it. Obviously, he felt the argument that Karp's making, and maybe at a $40 billion market cap, he looks at Palantir as a company that he holds for the next decade. I mean, you never know. If Palantir can get the growth rate higher, I know it's a company that Ackman wouldn't probably go into because Ackman's more consumer based. Hilton Hotels, Google, Chipotle, right? Like Lowe's. This is the stuff that Ackman tends to get into. But maybe there's something towards Palantir that he would be excited for one day. I don't know. Probably not going to happen, but it definitely got me thinking that it could get people excited. Matt says probably the greatest thing Karp has ever said. Yeah, Karp had an interview at the Reagan Summit, and Shyam Sankar had an interview as well. And I'll be talking about all of those on today's episode of Daily Palantir because we got a lot of news to discuss. But Karp made headlines, said a lot of stuff that was really important, and so we'll be discussing all that stuff later today. Did he quote it or just repost it? He literally reposted it, bro. He handed your boy a retweet. And for those that are not on Twitter, like a retweet matters. Like a retweet really, I mean, a quote tweet also helps, but a retweet is like, you're literally just giving your followers someone's tweet. And dude, like it reminds you, like when you're getting like 80 followers in like 5 seconds, you're like, oh yeah, the world is really big. Oh yeah, there's 500 million people on Twitter. Like, oh yeah, if this guy has access to 800,000 people that don't know anything about Daily Palantir or Amit, or honestly, I mean, dude, I know Palantir's social team had to see that clip. We gave Alex Karp's 1 minute, the most impactful minute, 600,000 views. Like, there is no way the social team is not like, well, Amit's doing our job for us. We don't have to do shit. Like, there's no way, dude. 600,000 views is not easy on an organic fucking video. It's not, there was no ads you have to pay for to get those views. So, but that's one Bill Ackman retweet. There's a lot of people in the world. A lot of people use Twitter, and one retweet could fucking change a lot of things. So really, really cool. Really, really cool to see that happen. And shout out to Andrew. I didn't even post the video. Andrew helps me run the brand account. He posted the video, and he's been hustling on that account for a while. And, with content, it's like, you just got to keep going, and eventually the algorithms will reward you, but you got to be in the right place, right moment, and keep it up. Let's take a look at our rate cuts coming in. We have Goldman Sachs' Elizabeth Burton, who is here today. Let's hear what she has to say about why rate cuts are why they're unlikely to happen until the fourth quarter of 2024. So she doesn't think it's happening until like December 2024. Let's hear her bear case.
2023 comes.
This is her bear case for it.
To an end. Investment themes are already beginning to take shape for the next year, for the new year, I should say. Joining us right now is Elizabeth Burton, Goldman Sachs Asset Management. And Elizabeth, we're looking at some moves this morning that are kind of crazy, with things running up, people expecting rate cuts are going to come down. Do you buy it? And if so, if you think that's really the story, what do you tell people to do with their money?
Our position remains that rate cuts are unlikely to happen until the fourth quarter of next year. We think that the Fed has been on a pretty good trajectory and will stay where they are. But things can always happen, and we can reevaluate. So I wouldn't be making market moves right now based on what's happening.
So do you think the runs that we've seen in places like the equity markets and gold and Bitcoin, are those overdone as a result? Because we keep saying those things are on the move because it looks like rate cuts are coming sooner.
I don't know if they're overdone. What I would say is I think we're going to be in a range-bound area, at least for the next 12 months. I think there's a really tough case for further upside in equities, mostly because to have that happen at this point, we're going to have to see some margin expansion. And I don't know that we're really in that position just now.
So what do you tell people to do? Wait and buy wait for a dip and then buy?
So as a former allocator, I mostly focus on asset allocation. It's one of our big 5 themes for 2024. And there's a couple things I think are important. One, a lot of allocators are underweight to commodities. In fact, they took them out of their portfolios about a decade ago. I think commodities are going to be important. If you think inflation is going to be high and sticky for some time, I think that's going to be helpful. And there's some tailwinds behind the green energy transition for certain parts of the commodities complex. I also think with Sharpe ratios coming down, right? So we are expecting lower returns to equities across the board, but volatility is higher. So it used to be hard to allocate ex-US if you thought the Sharpe ratio was higher there. But when Sharpe ratios across the board and equities are 0.2 to 0.3, it makes it easier to make the case that you need geographic diversification. In addition to that, I think private markets are a good place to play when you're in this sort of range-bound area with low equity risk premium.
What kind of private markets?
I'm sorry?
Where in the private markets?
So we really like real estate credit. We like private credit. We continue to like parts of private equity as well. And I know that a lot of folks are scared of real estate. There's a lot of really
All right, so Chris says she's wrong in the chat. She's out here leading the lemmings into trap. Dude, Chris, are you free right now? Do you want to hop on real quick? Let's see if we wanted you on the market open. If you're free, let me know. I'll give you a link and have you pop on in a couple minutes and we can talk. But her argument is interesting. I mean, her argument is that these rate cuts aren't happening anytime soon. And a lot of that is baked into, there's a lot of euphoria we have around how rate cuts are coming sooner than later. I mean, honestly, I got a lot of texts over the weekend from people saying like rate cuts are happening soon. And like the Fed CME watch that I want to pull up as well to give us a little bit of an understanding so you guys can see rate cuts are being factored in pretty soon. I think the one argument she's missing is the inflation point. And the inflation point in the context of the broader ecosystem around how things are falling. Even if it takes some time for rate cuts to happen, I don't think we go till 2024 December, which is what she says is happening, for rate cuts to occur. I mean, that's going to be a tough place to imagine that happens. Chris says, just remember anything Goldman Sachs says takes with a grain of salt. These shady tools are not to be trusted. Yeah, I mean, Goldman theoretically could be wanting a little bit more of a dip to load up a little bit more as well. I think the fundamental problem with her argument, as from my perspective, is that inflation's coming down, and that 2-handle on inflation is going to happen, I would say, at least by January, February, if it doesn't accelerate. And the reason for that is because we're seeing what's happening with oil, with demand going down, and we're definitely seeing that with housing being a lagging indicator. So the question becomes, even if we're not at 2% inflation, if we're at like 2.5, 2.6, does the Fed give us 25 basis points of relief in an election year and in a year when, defense spending is, interest rates are higher than defense spending? I don't know, man. It seems it's more likely than not. Her argument doesn't seem to hold up as strongly against all of that. Sachin says rate cuts will come sooner than expected as keep rates here will eventually break something somewhere in the system. It is already stretched. Yeah. I mean, like, to assume that rate cuts are not, I mean, I guess it was premature in July to assume rate cuts were coming, but that's why the market rally was kind of fake, right? Everyone assumed rate cuts were coming because we got a pause. We ran up to 460 on the S&P. That's when Palantir was at 20. That's when Nvidia was at 515. And then we crashed about 10, 15% from that top because it seemed like rate cuts weren't going anywhere. Then we got new inflation data. And the new inflation data made it very obvious that things are falling off a cliff. And the only reason you keep interest rates high is to combat inflation. Well, if inflation is falling off a cliff, something's going to break. And there's just going to be no need to keep the economy that tight. Having said that, the Fed will not cut rates until we see 2%, not because it proves anything, just because they have said it. I agree. I agree with that as well. So if we don't see 2%, I mean, it's probably going to be unlikely to get a massive cut, if any cut. And the Fed's probably going to be, gung and ho about that because they don't want to lose legitimacy here. Palantir now 1933, down 4.6% on the day. And legitimacy is important to them. S&P 500 down 0.65% on the day. But the question is, do we get 2% inflation in the next 6 months? Enphase 108, Snowflake 187, Bitcoin 41,609, Robinhood 956, MicroStrategy 8%. The Bitcoin stocks are still up. Crypto stocks are still up. They're all still doing well. But they aren't as high as they were at the beginning of the morning. Google 130, Google fell to 129, Meta 317. Yeah, big tech is down. Small caps are up. We're having some short squeezes on some companies. Beyond Meat looks like a Bitcoin miner right now, up 20%. Likely some type of a squeeze. Elf Beauty up 2%. Spotify up 10%. Spotify 38 billion, kind of in that small mid-cap range. SoFi up 2% of the day. Palantir obviously down, but it's run up a lot, so that's understandable. And you got Microsoft at 366. Dude, I mean, again, 384 on Microsoft, like that was a heavy price to be paying for something at all-time highs. We're seeing it relax at 366. And some of these companies are down. Robinhood now at 956, up 2.52%. And SoFi falling just under $8 at $7.99, but at $8 now. Palantir 1931 on the day. We're green, folks. We're green in a different spot, but we're green in certain sectors and not green in other sectors. And really big tech is starting to not be green, and small cap is starting to be green as well. Spotify announced the layoff. That is correct. That's why Spotify's up. Fubo is big as well. I forgot to look at Fubo. Fubo, I know this is a big one for some people. Yeah, up 7% on the day. Dude, we're getting some momentum here. Oatly as well is up 4% on the day. Honest Group is up 100% in the month. Honest Group is up 2% on the day. We're getting some of these small caps starting to get momentum. Palantir at 1932 now on the day. All right. Did you ask Dan Ives about SoFi and why these guys have such a low price target? You know what? I forgot to ask Dan Ives about SoFi. I didn't do that. But I don't think Dan covers it. Wedbush covers it, but I don't think Dan actually cares about SoFi at all. Because he's like a tech analyst, not a fintech analyst. So I should have asked him about that. I totally forgot Wedbush has like a $3 price target on them. Most price targets on SoFi are closer to that $11 to $16 range. Some of them are at $8, but most of them are like $9 to $16. So yeah, don't know why Wedbush is so low on them. Really, the number one reason I understand is that they don't like how SoFi does accounting, which is really weird because it's not like SoFi is doing it in a fraudulent way, but their lack of approval over their accounting is what gets SoFi to be down for them. Let's end it off with the word of the day. What do we got? We got gouch.
Gauche.
This cannot keep happening every day. Okay, gauche, not gouch. It's gauche.
Gauche.
Gauche is, it looks like gouch though, right? This looks like gouch. This does not look like gauche. Lacking social grace, sensitivity, or acuteness, awkward and tactless. So if you're gauche, you're awkward. I guess I'm gauche sometimes. You know, with the ladies, I'm not very gauche. I'm gouch. You know what I'm talking about? We'll flip it on the other side. I'm gouch with the ladies. I'm not gauche. But sometimes I can be gauche on the live stream, as you guys have seen. All right, that's it for me. Another French word. I don't know how we're getting so many French words on these word of the days. Thank you all for being here. And we're going to do daily Palantir episode. We got a lot to talk about, given everything that happened over the weekend. That'll be out probably like 6, 7 p.m. Finance Junkies 9 p.m. We'll see what happens on the rest of the market. And we'll keep going from there. Bitcoin 41,000. It's pumping up a lot of these stocks. We'll see how it goes and see where it continues from there. Palantir 1930. Thank you all for being here today. I will see you guys tomorrow at the market open. Chris says, sorry, work last night. No problem, Chris. No problem. We'll get you on the market open one of these days this weekend. We'll talk about everything, including what's going on in Bitcoin, stock market, some of the winners you've had this year. So we'll talk about all that. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Great weekend. What am I doing? It's Monday morning. Get your head in the game. Have a great week. Let's kill it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.